All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. My name is Kalai. I'm a consultant here at Blackbaud, and I'm happy to be moderating today's session. We've got a great session on Blackbaud Financial Edge NXT Query APIs and reporting APIs that Brenda Noizier is going to be leading us through. And she's a great expert in this area, so I'm sure you guys will learn a lot. Take it away, Brenda.
Excellent. I love the energy already in this chat. Amazing. Love it. Let's bring it. Um, just a few things today. This is really meant to be an interactive session, so feel free to use that chat. We're going to talk about a little recap of what's available, but really I also want this to be like, what are you looking for? Have you been using Query API? What are your use cases? What would you like to see in a reporting API? So we're going to go through a bunch of that, but also looking for your input about what you're thinking of building, what you're already building, to help the product team prioritize kind of what's next and to keep on building to allow you the ability and the flexibility and extensibility that you're looking for. So with that, just a couple of slides to kick us off today. Just going to open them up and share my screen. Let's see. And while I'm doing that, if you want to pop in the chat, maybe where you're coming in from, that would be so much fun. Like share the love of where you're coming in today, where you're calling in from around the country or around the world. As Akalai had mentioned, I'm Brenda Noizier. I'm the product team lead here on the financials and grant making pillar. What that means is that I work with products like FE NXT or Financial Edge NXT, and I also work on our grant making solution, Blackbaud Grant Making. Woohoo! I love it. Entering it in the chat. I'm coming to you from Manchester, New Hampshire, which is in the U.S. And we're about an hour north of Boston, for those of you familiar with the East Coast. Not too far away, but we are. That is my tiny dog. 1 second. Sorry about that. Tiny dog was barking, but now Tiny dog has moved. So thanks for the patience on that. For those of you who have pets who have had that moment before, feel free to also share that in the chat. May help me feel a little bit better if, we commiserate together. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. I love it around the world. And so many times. We're going to go ahead, just for those of you who may not be aware, Financial Edge NXT is redefining what's possible in a nonprofit financial platform. So FENXT, or Financial Edge NXT, is our nonprofit accounting solution that we use here, and that it's custom built, it's purpose built for nonprofits. So if this is your first experience, welcome. And those of you in the know, thanks for coming and spending some time with me. Lots of exciting things are happening in Financial Edge NXT, and one of those things that we have is Sky API. So over the past, I would say, year, we've been releasing new APIs using Sky API. So if you're unfamiliar or just want to stay up to date, we have APIs for accounts payable, fixed assets, statistical unit, query, which is why we're all here, general ledger, treasury, accounts receivable. We also have some power connectors, the certified power connectors in preview, and those are query, accounts payable, and general ledger. So we'll talk about where you can find that information, and then sign up for those previews if you'd like. So if you have any low code folks here today, or if you've just been inspired to try out some low code solutions, those certified connectors may be a really good option for you. Additionally, just recently we released some updates to General Ledger for journal entry. So it's some asynchronous processes. So if you're actually working with large batches of data, we've added some endpoints in there to help make that processing go much smoother for you. So we can point that out too if that's something you're interested in. So then if we talk more specifically about Query API, lots of APIs already out there. Query's been out there for several months. You will note that there are some APIs that are still in preview, and really preview just means that we're putting it out there to let users go and So that way we can prioritize improvements as well. It also means that we might make changes during that time when they're in preview. So that's just a little indicator for you. All right. So lots of things you can do with query. You can add a query category. You can search. You can search through the available fields tree. You can delete query categories, edit query categories. You have a query list and execution job status. So lots of different options for you. When we take a look at them right in the Sky Developer API reference, you'll notice that it is a combination of gets and posts. So if you had joined me yesterday for our accounts receivable session, those are really just gets at the moment. But with query, we have a more robust set of endpoints that you can use for your different use cases. And then just a quick shout out, again, this is a very quick slide deck here, a quick shout out to some of the other sessions in BB Dev Days around query, just in case you don't have them on your radar, but you're interested. There are some that already happened, so catch those on the on-demand. There's tips and tricks on using on Query API and Power Automate, which I think is tomorrow. How it's made, query internals, past, present, and future. So if you like to geek out on architecture and how things are created, that's the session for you. If you are interested in kind of moving away from manual imports or manual exports, that break free from manual data exports using Razor's Edge NXT and Financials Edge NXT may be something you're interested in. And then modernizing Financial Edge NXT data workflows, automating analytics with Fabric in Sky API. So for those of you who are looking at some large data sets that you want to use together, that session was yesterday, but there's also, and I'll grab the link and drop it in to the chat, that also had a great web page that they put together, kind of walking through some steps for you to try and follow along with their session. So lots of good tools here at BB Dev Days to help you get started or move you along or make some connections with other folks who are interested in using Query API. All right. As Kalai had mentioned, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, interact with each other in the chat, put your use cases in the chat. This is meant to be interactive and sharing as we go through the session today. We're, again, using this as a way to kind of talk about what's available in FENXT Query right now and also help prioritize with the product team, hearing directly from you about the use cases or ways that you might want to integrate using Query API. So, of course, tips and tricks is going on right now. Thanks, Cameron. Thanks for that update. But you should be able to catch that in the on-demand, so that should help as well. All right. So with that, let me get out of the thank you. Let me drop over here. For those of you, hopefully this is something that you've seen in your journey here at BB Dev Days, but just in case, I like to be thorough. This is the Sky Developer site where you can come in and see documentation across all of Blackbaud products. When we're looking specifically for FENXT and query, go to your API reference, and then come into Financial Edge NXT, either from the vertical navigation or from the center, it doesn't matter. Okay, and you'll find all of the query information here under query. Now, if we come into query, you can get the change log, support, and then endpoint reference if you're looking to see what's available for your needs. So as I mentioned before, they aren't just gets. So if you are looking to do some posts for creates, for example, or some updates or deletes, we do have a variety of endpoints in here as well. And then when you're coming in here, you can also see the available fields that are available in the response. So good ways to help you with this. A lot of questions that come up, like what would I use Query for lots of reasons that you might want to use query to pull data sets out, maybe to add a query, run a query that you already have that you've created. So you want to generate the results of that query and pull it into somewhere else, maybe another system. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some other good use cases. Who's got a use case for query or has already been playing around with Query API right now? Anyone in the chat? Not to put you on the spot. Let's see. Let me check the Q&A just in case somebody went to the Q&A. Nothing yet. Okay. That's all right. It's still relatively new. Oh, 1099s. That is a great example. 1090, have you already used it, Brian, for 1099, or are you thinking about using it for 1099s for the upcoming year? Populating your data warehouse, excellent. Moving those large data sets. Already used for 2024, great. That's awesome, I'd love to hear it. So used for 1099s, used to populate your data warehouse, great use cases already. All right. Anyone else, you can feel free to share. We'll keep, shouting out what's happening here. And again, feel free to also ask questions of each other. This is a learning opportunity for all of us. All right. Now, this is what we have for Query API. We are dedicated to increasing the flexibility and extensibility of our Sky APIs. If you are using Query and at some point you're like, oh, I really wish we had this endpoint, or I really wish we had this field in the response, please, please, please reach out. You can contact support. You can reach out that's probably one of the fastest ways to provide your feedback and say, hey, I have this use case. It would be really helpful if we had this. You can also put that feedback, or if it's even a question, in the Sky developer community. If you're not familiar with that, if we head over to support in the top and we go to the community, great place to post ideas or commentary like, hey, I'm looking to do X, or I ran into this problem doing Y, or has anyone ever done Z? A great place to come in and have some discussions, learn from folks who are also probably doing very similar things to what you might be doing as well. But yes, we are dedicated to continuing to evolve and add new endpoints. So if you ever run into something, please feel free to reach out and let us know. With that, Query does a lot of amazing things, and we know, again, from a product perspective, that we're not done, we're not complete. We're also looking at adding in reporting APIs, specifically for reports. So the ability, things that we've heard, and if anyone wants to, provide their feedback or throw some use cases in the chat, we'd love to hear it. We've been, thinking about doing something where maybe you can add a report via API or run a report using the APIs. We don't have a robust list of those use cases yet. So again, any feedback you have, or if you say, you know what, now that you have Query API, would really love to see you do more things with Query API. We love to hear it from the product perspective. A few things. I will drop my email in here if you want to provide, if you're still thinking about it while we're in the session, and then you want to provide feedback later. I'm going to drop my email right here because I realized I didn't put it on the slide. So feel free to drop in some feedback around what you would like to see, or the use cases that you have and the connections you're trying to make using Query API, or what you'd like to see from a reporting API. We have some ideas, but obviously it's much better if it comes from you. Another thing too, actually, let me drop that community link in here really quickly. I'm sure maybe you're tired of seeing it, but I think, sharing as much as possible is always a great idea, just to make sure it's right at your fingertips. I don't always copy things as quickly as I would like to when I'm in these meetings. And then I was mentioning yesterday's session on modernizing, automating your data workflows. And here's this great site that Esgenio, who had led that session, had actually gone in for some prototype setup instructions. So you can just kind of look through, even if you're not going to set it up yourself, you can actually just get a sense of what some of the steps might be. So even if it's not something you're going to do, but maybe you haven't used some of these tools before, it's just like a nice way to kind of see some of those steps as well. So I'll just pop this in here. Probably more beneficial if you watch the session as well, but if you're just kind of curious, here's this as well. Now I've just thrown all the links in the world in the chat. All right. Other things that you'd like to see in a query API, like so data warehouse, obviously top of mind, right? Other use cases that you're thinking of. Such a powerful tool. It's like, what can't we do, right? It's one of those things that when we think about it, it's like, what can we do? What can't we do? Oh, Jacob, you're welcome. Look at, thank you. Awesome. Love having you guys here. This is great. So quiet today. All right, that's okay. I know there's a lot of learning that's happening here at Baby Dev Days. So everyone's just taking it in as a sponge in terms of what you're thinking about doing and those different use cases. Again, we've already had, thinking about large data sets, thinking about 1099 data that you want to pull out, thinking about, queries that have already been created that you want to just be able to run via the API, right? Maybe complex queries that somebody's already set up and you want to pull that information into another place or just analyze that data in some way, shape, or form. Really powerful tool. I think too, when we think about query and reporting, when we think about query and reporting all together, so many different options. Over the years, we've thought about reports. We've thought about queries. We've thought about work lists. We've thought about workspaces. There's data warehousing. There are data visualization tools, and so we're committed to making sure that we are giving you those different options so you can see them in multiple places. The other thing too, since somebody did bring up, let me just take a look. The other thing too, since we did talk about populating data warehouses too, is one of the exciting things is, and other things that we're looking at too in Financial Edge NXT are the concepts of Sky add-ins. So that way you could have add-ins in different places that are rendering data externally, right, from another source, kind of natively within FE NXT. So if that's something you're also interested in, you're setting up you're doing reporting, maybe you're using Power BI and there's a super helpful report that you have or chart or something of that nature that you want to pull into FENXT, let us know. We are working through, again, prioritizing the Sky add-ins. So we would love to hear your feedback on if you think that that's something that you would like to have. We would love to do that as well. So now I'm just expanding the session a little bit when we think about query and reporting and all the different ways that we report and do data visualization. What would be the limitations of Sky add-ins? Right now we're limited. Yeah, great question. Right now we're limited in the places that we can put Sky add-ins. So for us, it's part of where can we put them and where would they be most beneficial. So we need to code those in from a Blackbaud perspective. The FENXT development team needs to code them in to different places. And so we have different ones available. If you're familiar with Sky add-ins at all, there are things like we could have a tile that shows, but we would need to have some guidance. Do we want to have it show on what record types we might want to show them on, or what pages we might want to show them on? And then for that, it would be more in terms of like size limitation of like how much data you're showing in that space. Does it actually make a lot of sense? A tile is only so big. I mean, it's different for your screen size, but it's only so big. So you'd want to make sure that that it's appearing in a way that makes sense. And then other Sky add-ins that could be available are buttons, right? So in your navigation, you could have existing buttons that a user could go to and then maybe launch a process, maybe work with the Power Automate process that you have to kick that off. Maybe there's a separate approval process. You're using a separate system for a specialty type of approval that you want to launch from FENXT. So they're not so much limitations in what you can do unless you're kind of rendering data in a particular size, like a tile. And then the limitations would be where our development team has added in the ability for those Sky add-ins. So hopefully that helps answer the question that you have, Cameron. If not, feel free to drop some notes in the chat and we can cover a little bit more. But to that point, if there are places you'd like to see Sky add-ins because you do want to show data or have the ability to launch a process, please share that too, because we're looking for all of your feedback to make this as useful and beneficial as possible. Great. All right. I think we have time for just maybe one or two more questions or engagements. We have any other use cases or questions we're thinking about? And now that I've opened it up past query, we can think of it as reporting, right? Query, reporting, and data analysis or reporting tools that would be helpful in Sky API. So feel free to drop any of those use cases in the chat. Or again, feel free to email me directly. I know sometimes use cases are a little bit longer than what you could just put in the chat. Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. Let's go head over to those updates. Let's see. Oh, wait. Let me remember how I want to show them to you. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right. So that's Query API. Oh, here we go. So General Ledger API. So this is recently new, so new endpoints to support your long-running processes. So again, how I got here is that change log option. So that's where we'll post those for you. So you can see that we have the get background process result, process status, and then the create journal entry batch process. So again, these are for those times when you're doing those batch processes. There may be large amounts of data, and you want to kick off a process which is for those long-running processes, or sometimes known as async. So you can take a look at these here. These are the newest ones. And then back in March, we also did some for accounts payable as well for those long-running processes. So not as new, but still relatively new, right? Just a couple months ago. We did the same thing for creating invoices. So if you're doing that, again, maybe potentially large amounts of data when you are creating those invoices. So you also do have support for those long-running processes as well. So again, journal entry, batch process, and create invoice. Great call out. And again, just to stay up to date with any of the changes that we're making, the best place to do that is through the Sky Developer Platform. And then when you come in, just take a peek at the change log. And that's where you can find those updates. And that's not just for FENXT, that's for any of the products listed here. So if you're curious, you can take a look. I don't have the number off the top of my head for how many you can do in a single batch. I may be able to find that for you and get back to you. But all right, great questions. All right. Any other questions? Interactions? I love it. Well, I appreciate all of you taking some time out of your busy day and your busy BB Dev days to spend some time with me. Really appreciate all the feedback, the chats in. Thanks for calling in from around the country and around the globe. We really love having you here. And again, not your only time to submit your feedback or your use cases. Feel free to reach out, but also take full advantage of that developer community too, because chances are somebody else is working on something similar as well.
Thanks so much, Brenda. Thanks everyone for being here and for interacting. I'm going to go ahead and launch a little very quick survey for you guys. Please give Brenda a little bit of love in this survey. We'd really appreciate it. Should only take not even a full minute. So thank you guys so much. We'll hang here for just a little bit. As if you think of any other questions, feel free to throw those into chat. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any additional questions, and Brenda has taken off as well. So thank you all again. I'm going to go ahead and close out our session, but I hope you got that survey in. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.